Welcome back to the Ride and Laugh podcast. If you love mountain biking, you are in the right place. Picture your last group ride. You're back at the parking lot. Everyone's talking about the trails, bikes, tech, nutrition, progression. You love bikes. We love bikes. Let's drop in. Sage, how are you today?
It is cold out, yo. Man, the country is in a deep freeze, Danny. I woke up, it was in the single digits. How are you, my friend?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I almost had to put pants on the other day for my walk. The sun really only warmed me up until like maybe 70 degrees or so. It was it was a little chilly.
You son of a.
I think I got a goosebump. For anyone that's not watching on the YouTube, Sage has props right now. He has a scarf wrapped around his head.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's like, that's not a prop, you Mother Hubbard. I'm cold.
It's cold.
It's not a prop, it's a scarf. You son of a.
Oh yeah. It is. It's so cold, Danny. But I heard the whole country is kind of in a deep freeze here. Like Louisiana got like 8 inches of snow, which is like unheard of down there.
Yeah, it looks bitterly cold, and I see a lot of snow on the ground and a lot of short rides. And a lot of trainer rides.
That's right. Yeah, a lot of indoor trainer, a lot of shoveling activities. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into it. We are talking about we're going to go review the comments from our last podcast, which is unlock trial skills in your mountain bike and add confidence and progression. That was episode 49.
Oh yeah.
And of course, we've been talking about the technical climbing at National for many episodes and just in general, and the joy to be found in that.
Yeah, to the chagrin of Dennis, by the way.
Yes, exactly. So Dennis had a great comment because I had mentioned that Vaughn came with us to Sedona and did some technical climbing sessioning and then did a technical climbing day at National and that he was really good at it. He's a really good rider.
Yes.
And then I thought that was in him, even though he's a guy who just really loves the downhill flow and
that's right.
And not into the technical climbing. And so when I said this, Dennis commented in, Denny Genetti, MTB, check out his channel. And he wrote, I'm going to need Vaughn to blink twice if he's being held against his will. Very cruel and unusual for that judge to not only order him to tech climb, but for him to say that he loves climbing. Yeah, it goes back to the joke that Dennis would only climb if a judge court ordered it. I guess because he had no money, so he had the technical climb instead. But Dennis, hilarious comment. I was really laughing. Hopefully Vaughn sees that one because that's really funny. That maybe Vaughn's being kept hostage and being forced to technical climb. And then another comment on the technical climbing, this one on episode 48. And this is from our buddy Sean, who runs Sticks and Stones Trail Building, and he builds pump tracks and trails, and they're fantastic. And Sean's a great guy.
Yes.
And Sean, a notorious downhiller. And he wrote, man, the way you guys talk about getting hyped up about tech climbs got me so fired up on this episode, I almost forgot who I was. To which we would say, you're not who you think you are. You're whoever you want to be.
That's right.
Then I remembered I'm on my way to ride a lift for the next 7 days. So Sean's always at the park. I'm sure he's skiing or snowboarding this time of year. Sorry, I'm still a park rat for life. Awesome delivery, guys. Thanks for keeping Stoke high on the off season. Who knows, you might just see me on an uphill tech climb this season with a smile on my face. Always uplifting, positive, and well done.
Yes, absolutely.
Sean, I bet you Sean would be awesome at climbing too, because he's really fit.
Oh yeah.
That dude could pump track for hours. It's incredible. He builds pump tracks. He builds trails, awesome trails. He's done stuff in riding at Mount Penn, and if you go on Sticks and Stones Instagram, you'll see a lot of the stuff that he builds. He built the pump track in my backyard, and
oh man,
he can just go and go and go and go. There's a fitness to riding the pump track. I mean, after like 2 minutes, I'm exhausted, and he can just go and go and go. It's a different type of fitness. Maybe it's the same. I don't know. What do you think? Pump track fitness versus pedaling fitness? Is there a difference?
I mean, it's completely, yes. I mean, it's completely different, but I got to tell you, man, there is no workout like a pump track workout. I mean, that is some serious muscle fatiguing. I mean, you literally, you can't do more than 2 or 3 laps at full gas. You are done. You have to take a break. It's unbelievable. So yeah, man.
I would almost I would almost, I wonder if anyone has ever made this analogy before, but you could be a really strong runner or cyclist. Like you could, or I remember when I was playing a ton of basketball, right? And then I got in the pool and I tried to swim laps and I was exhausted. There's the whole body being used in swimming. And I would say pump track is like, it's like the whole body's being used. The oxygen demand is so much higher because you're just using everything. You're not pedaling. It's just like, it's just this entire body workout. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool.
You know what though? I don't know how much of that would translate to climbing prowess.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's still not the same muscles that you would use to sit and climb and stand up and punch up. And, you know, I just think it's a little bit different of a beast, but in terms of just overall fitness, like, you really can't lose on a pump track. And as for being a downhill park rat, I mean, more power to you. Like, I mean, that sounds like a lot of fun too. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Totally pro bike park, which is a long ways from where we started. We can get into that some other time. I think we've touched on it before, our previous, just kind of like closed-mindedness towards, some of these other mountain bike options, which is totally silly. Bike parks are amazing. So, so check out Sean at Sticks and Stones, and I'd be super curious to see him climb.
Listen, what's really apparent by watching Sean and Keaton too is the way that they translate what they take from the pump track to the downhill park or to the trails. And that's where you get the real advantage. It's not the fitness, which is tremendous, but it's taking those skills and applying them to the trails. That's where the money's at. And yeah, man, I was super jealous of your pump track at the house.
Yes, I totally agree. Yeah, pump tracks are awesome. There's so much to be learned there. Ride and Laugh on Gmail, YouTube comments on pump track experience, or do you not have a pump track to visit and really want one? You know, we have long lamented not having enough pump tracks in the area. We always feel like, for half of the tennis courts and basketball courts and the same playground they build over and over and over and over, let's throw a couple of pump tracks in there. And it's just, kids love them too. Whenever you go to a place where there's a pump track, it's just like packed with kids on bikes and scooters, and it's really cool. Yeah. So on that episode, we also, of course, talked about Jeff Lenoski and our good friend Shelly, who runs the fire team. She has a Jeff Lenoski story, and also a really good point. And she wrote, Jeff Lenoski is as kind as he is talented. We recognized him at a Lair, which is a mountain bike park in New Jersey, I believe, a few years ago. And he invited us to ride along, took photos with the kids, and was just such a good guy. I can't think of another sport where a regular athlete can meet and play alongside a professional, which is just a really interesting point. You know what I mean? Like in our sport, if you meet a professional, you can ride with them.
Yes. That is such a good point. I mean, you're right. We've been pretty fortunate to meet some big time players in the mountain bike community. And Jeff is one of those stand-up guys. We've talked about it already. I mean, he will literally take time out of his day. What a special community. So yeah.
All right. Ride and Laugh 1 at Gmail. We had some really good emails and a really, really interesting message from Sean Cassidy. And he wrote, hey guys, love the show. On a recent episode, you were talking about how one of you, and I believe it was Sage, is really good at riding trails blind. This is something I'd like to get better at. Besides riding more, what's something that you'd recommend to get better at hitting trails for the first time? And I have a few ideas written down, but Sage, what comes off the top of your mind? As far as, I mean, the first time you drop into a new trail system blind, you're not following anyone, I take it.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about this before, but the very first thing that I do when I get to a trail system that I've never ridden before is I test the trails out. So the first 5 to 10 minutes, I'm really studying the terrain, how my bike is hooking up with the dirt, or if it's more sandy or it's very rocky, and what kind of rocks, how is the tire tracking on the terrain. And I will spend a good 5 to 10 minutes just skidding my brakes or pushing into the turns, all kinds of stuff, in addition to warming up, obviously. And then when it's time to go, You take all those things that you learned from those first 5-10 minutes and you just apply it right to the trail and trust. The other thing that I'll do is I'll take a look at all the features that I see along the trail and see how they're built, how well they're built. So if it's a trail system, and we went to one in Massachusetts, I believe it was Massachusetts, Vietnam Trails. Man, what a fantastic trail network. And you get an idea really quick about how well you can trust that these features are built correctly to trail speed. And if I pass a couple features that were like, oh boy, that wasn't built correctly at all, okay, that's going to bring me a little bit of caution when I come up to something. Maybe I'm not going to hit it. Maybe I'll ride by it first, you know? Those are all the things that kind of pop into my head.
So as you are riding, maybe it's a climb, maybe it's flat in the beginning, and you're riding by things, you're really taking note of what does this look like? Okay, there's a tabletop jump there. I could roll that. That's a gap jump. All right, I'm going to have to be careful. There's gap jumps on this trail that I may not know the speed for, or that feature looks like it's really well built and that one doesn't. So you're always paying attention. And then as you start to ride the downhills, you're starting to either check off like these positive notions that everything is rollable, or I'm feeling good, or there's drops, but I can see the landing and everything's well built. And you start to get into that confidence flow. And as that goes, then you get more and more confident to just go ahead and send it. Another great thing is check out YouTube, check out Trail Forks before the ride. See if you can get a feel for what the trails are going to look like. You know, it doesn't give you the steepness or the speed or the rawness sometimes, but it can show you those are gap jumps or those are drops that are well built. So give yourself a little bit of intel, and hopefully that helps. Sometimes I watch YouTube and then I see in the trail and it looks really hard, or I see everyone like talking about how hard it is, and then it makes me nervous. It gives me anxiety because I'm like, oh boy, like this is going to be. It's almost better to not know. You know what I mean? And just deal with it in the moment. Right. But I would say if you can separate that anxiety and still get the information, get the intel, and just go in and like, and when you start to get anxious, just like, I'm not going to worry about this. I'm going to deal with it when I get to it. So I had 3 key points that I came up with for riding trails blind.
Okay.
Number 1, very basic, keep your eyes up. Really focus on seeing further down the trail. So that's always something we want to do in mountain biking is bounce our eyes up, eyes up, eyes up, eyes up. We talked about putting that on the stem of the bike so that we, get your eyes up dummy. Like it slows everything down. And on blind trails, it's just like hugely important.
Absolutely.
Number 2, stay balanced and in good position. Stay in that good position. Stay in that ready position. You've got the skills. The skills are in there. You're ready for anything. And suddenly riding new trails, blind trails that you're nervous about, when you're balanced and you're tackling everything and you're rolling everything and you're aggressively balancing the bike and moving forward without fear and with confidence, then riding blind trails all of a sudden becomes exhilarating. Then riding new trails is like, oh my God, I love riding new trails. Like there's another level of excitement when you don't know what's coming up and you're just handling it. And then the last one is what I was talking about earlier, is be present. Release your thoughts. Just release thoughts, release anxiety, be in the moment, and tackle all the obstacles as they come at you. And you get into that good flow state. And now you're flowing, you're in your centered position, your eyes are up, and the bike's moving under you, and you're just floating over the trail. And riding a new trail blind becomes just like, an exercise in being present and flowing on the trail and flowing in life. And that's what we do this for. So, I mean, those are good tips for riding in general, but to get the most out of riding a new trail blind, you want to get a good lap in. Those are Lanky D's 3 tips.
Yeah. I'll add 2 more. They're just things that I look out for is tire marks. So if you are in a place that has a lot of rollovers or things like that, you can often see if there are tire marks going up to a rock. That's a pretty good indication that that's going to be a worn in line.
Yeah.
And, if you have been confident that, okay, every single rock that I've passed so far has been a roll, and you see a tire track that's going toward a big rock over, that's a pretty good indication that you can go in that with confidence. Again, I don't want to give people bad advice too, and, just kind of send these things, but, you start to get a feel for these things, The other thing that I'll do, and this goes into the eyes up portion, is the better that you start to get at getting your eyes up, you can start to put pieces together. So the first step, in getting your eyes up is you're looking at the first feature. And that's where I think most people get hung up. You start looking at a rock, you identify a rock that's in the distance. You're like, okay, I definitely want to avoid that. The next step is, can you put together several rocks and make a map pretty quickly in your head? Okay, yeah, I'm going to avoid this rock, but wait, there's another rock in the distance. And can I prepare myself to get from this line to this line and avoid all these things? So it's not just getting your eyes up and noticing one feature. It's, can you connect the features? And that's what's going to make you ultra fast on a blind trail.
And to take that one step further and tie back in the pump track conversation we were having, when you start identifying all those rocks and all those features and all those berms coming up in the future, and now instead of riding them, you're pumping them, right? You're getting light at the top and heavy at the bottom, and you start to pump those features, and I can get a little bit of air here, and I can get a little bit extra flow here, and so you're pumping into berms, and so now instead of just seeing the rocks, now you're starting to pump them and flow over them. I mean, that's mountain bike magic, brother. That's where it is. And I see people doing that on South Mountain on some of this chunk. Like they're looking, Oh yeah. I'm going to talk more about it later, but we met this guy, Kyle, on National Trail, who's a phenomenal rider. And he was showing Jeff and I lines that we had never seen before. And he was pointing out a couple of things that he called South Mountain jumps. There's no jumps on National Trail on South Mountain. Yeah. There's things to jump off of. Oh, that's right. you know, so and so he was like, yeah, this is a South Mountain jump. This is a SoMo jump, as they would say. I love that. And it was really just like jumping from one rock to another. If you jump on this rock, you can clear this rock, and we land over there. And Jeff and I were like, our jaws were like on the ground, like, what? Oh my God, never even thought of that. But that's essentially like opening up a pump track, on the trail, and it's really cool. It's really cool when you see people like flowing like that. And that's really what the good riders really do.
Oh my gosh, Danny, we were going to do a whole topic on free speed because we were talking about Logan Fox, who's a local Mount Penn rider, and he was using that pumping technique. And, if I see a root or rock that allows me to clear a bunch of chunk in the middle, like those are things that will increase your speed, So instead of getting hung up in a garden where you're like, is there a rock that you can hit at the beginning of that to jump over the majority of that chunk? Like those are all things that you kind of start to pick up. And as you ride more and more, your brain starts to notice these things. And once you notice it, you can't unsee it. You're like, oh my gosh, and then you start picking the trail apart. It's like, it's unbelievable. It's like the Matrix, like unfolding in front of you. You're like, oh my God.
Yeah. When you start to go into autopilot, when your flow goes into autopilot, and that comes down to being present, present, centered, and then you have the skills, you trust the skills. Once you start to feel it, like you said, once you start to feel it and it's in there, then like you just can't wait to get back there. That's why people get so stoked on going mountain biking, right? Like I want that feeling, I want that flow. We want that all the time. We want to be flowing with life. We want to be trusting our abundance, trusting our skills, knowing that everything's going to work out for the best. If we stay present, let's see what happens. And it's just going to get better and better. So, well, Sean, I hope that was helpful in blind trails, riding blind trails. I'm not sure where you are, but as soon as it gets warmer, or if it's warm enough, let us know if any of those tips helped out, if you used any of those tips. And if anybody has any questions, you can put them in the YouTube comment, or you can email them to us, ridinglamp1@gmail.com, and we will tackle it. Yeah. And it can be about riding. It can be about life. We do a lot of mindset here and the mountain bike synchronicities between how we love riding and how we enjoy life. They're endless. And I know everyone that's listening, when you have a good day on the bike, those memories and that stoke can carry you for 2, 3, 4 days of just like, man, that was so much fun. Or I'm so stoked I got that feature. I'm so happy I got that jump. Or it was so cool watching my buddies get this. And it was really cool helping out, so-and-so be able to get over this. And it's just mountain biking it's just awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is the part of the podcast where we thank everyone for listening. We have gratitude for all of our listeners. Please remember to rate and subscribe. I was just listening to a podcast the other day that I listen to all the time, and I really enjoy it. And they did the whole spiel on please rate and subscribe. And I was like, have I? Like of all the people, you would think that I would go in and rate and subscribe. And I went into my podcast player and I checked the rating, and I had already given it 5 stars. But just go ahead and double check. And make sure that maybe grab someone else's phone and give us a 5-star review on their phone. The Ride and Laugh phone stealing program. It's
yes.
abundance. Yep.
Abundance.
Keep the phone. What do we need? Let's get a Ride and Laugh black market going. Let's sell some phones. All right. So, all right. When we talked about right before we started the podcast, we were talking about our rides, and you said the weather's just not been cooperating.
Yeah.
You haven't been able to get out.
Yeah. I mean, typically I'll get out in the snow anyway. Just life in general, just going with the flow. A lot of work, working on podcasts, working on that Stumpy video, which if you're listening or watching this podcast, my Stumpy video will be out.
So what do you do for a week when you're like not able to get outside? Are you lifting more weights? Are you eating less? Or are you just giving yourself grace and just saying, I'll get back to it next week, and this is a week off?
No, I did a couple runs. They're short, so they're easy, especially when they're cold. And then I did a 48-hour fast last week, so that was nice.
Oh,
hadn't done that in a while. So
yeah,
man, those things are really effective.
So do you say, okay, now it seems like a good time to fast since I have like relatively low activity level, and you don't want to fast when you're really, really working hard. So, okay, I haven't been working as much, so now's a good time to throw a fast in.
No, I'll do a fast in my workouts. Like I'm notorious for doing at least a hard workout on the first day of a fast, and I'll even do a zone 2 on the second day. But yeah, we're unlimited. There's no limit to the fasting in my world. I've been doing this for a really long time. I don't know if that's medically correct, so don't quote me on any of that. But, for me, I'll do a hard hit ride on day 1, and I'll even follow up with a zone 2 ride on day 2. But it's taking me a while to get to that spot. Like, you have to train your body.
You're very fat adapted. You are very efficient at using fat as an energy source. But that's really interesting. We'll do a fasting episode at some point.
Yeah, we should.
I am curious. You don't feel lethargic on day 2 exercise. You don't feel
no, but you're not pushing it,
lack
Danny.
of energy.
You're doing a zone 2. I mean, it's boring as heck. Whether it's an
easy
run
workout.
or that's right. Yeah, you can hold a conversation. Like it's a very go for a walk. Like it's basically that kind of an effort where it's just like, okay.
Right.
Yeah. But you burn so many calories on that second day. If you do any kind of a activity, even if it's just walking to the store.
Yes.
Like you will burn so many calories on that second day. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll burn a lot of fat. You're going to be burning your fat storage, and then you're
right.
reset. It's really a reset. The fast is really a reset. You're resetting your system. You're resetting all your cells and just giving them a break from eating. And then there's all this benefits, and we talked about this before. And certainly, go onto YouTube and look up videos about autophagy and how that works. And I'm a firm believer, and from what I've read also or watched on YouTube, when you are in a fasted state and then you exercise, you're really like doubling the time. So
that's right.
Or tripling the time. So if a 24-hour fast with like a 3-hour ride might be equivalent to a 30-hour fast or a 36-hour fast as far as what your body is doing, as far as it's saying, like, I need more resources. There's no food. I'm going to have to I'm going to have to get my cells to be more efficient. I'm going to clean up, get rid of all. That's what autophagy is. Get rid of all the cells that aren't doing a good job, and only use the cells that are working the best. And so it really just kind of like cleans up the system. I recently did a 27-hour fast with a pretty significant Hawes ride in it.
Yeah,
like a 2.5-hour ride. I felt great, and it just happened that way. I didn't plan on doing it, but it was like, okay, well, I'm not going to eat before my ride. I don't usually do that, so I went after, and I broke the fast afterwards. And but I felt good on the ride. I was surprised for a pretty hard ride. I felt good considering I was fasted for that long.
Isn't that? I mean, I know we want to get into other things, but like I do want to note, like, I think that flexibility is what attracted me to the whole 1 meal a day or intermittent fasting, like not being tied down to food, or calories to burn. Like you're literally just so flexible. Like you were like, oh, I'm on a 27-hour fast. I'm still going to do a big ride, and who cares? I didn't get a chance to eat, or I'll just keep going until after the ride. Like that flexibility is is tremendous. You know, how many people do we run into and it's like, oh, I got to stop at Wawa. I used to be that guy. I used to be the Wawa guy, you know, like before every ride, I would stop at Wawa. You know, I'm getting breakfast sandwiches and all this stuff. And like halfway through the ride, I'm jamming gels and all kinds of crap into my mouth, you know, just so that I can keep up. And it's like, you and I, we kind of don't deal with, but we don't we don't deal with any of that. It's
Yeah. It's pretty cool and it's pretty incredible that we do these long rides and we don't have to bother eating beforehand. We both like to ride in the morning when possible, but you know, there's no reason to eat before the ride, and then we don't eat on the ride, and it's just freeing.
It's free.
And and we don't drink even really sugar water or anything like that. We just drink like electrolyte water, and it feels great. The only drawback, and this, I think this would be either way, is you were talking about the freedom it gives you, is that when I do eat, I'm very careful about what I put in my body. So a lot more so than you are. But I don't want, like I don't want fried, I don't want vegetable oils. I don't, like I want high quality food when I do eat. And so anyone that knows that goes to a restaurant with me, like I ask lots of questions, and I might even call beforehand and ask what they cook in and everything. But once I find a place I know I like, then I'm in. But I can also, if I'm with people and they all want to go to a restaurant and that's not my type of restaurant, I have no problem just not eating and just continuing that fast until I get home.
Yeah. I am not like you, by the way. I'm more like the DeLorean in Back to the Future 2, when, Doc is just shoving all the food into the DeLorean. This engine runs on anything.
Yeah, no, it's a great analogy, but how many people have seen Back to the Future 2? I guess most of our listeners seen Back to the Future 2. Yeah. It's a classic, exactly.
Go watch it. Go watch it right now. It's the opening scene.
Yes. You know what? We can find a clip. You can find a clip. But yeah, it's pretty much a garbage disposal runs the time travel machine. Yes.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you just fast and you clean your system out of that. So you fast more often than I do. I eat more, but I just eat healthier. So I don't need to fast as much. And when I do,
there you go.
I'm unlimited. Yeah. Hey man, we're guys in our upper 40s and we feel great. If you've ridden with us, we feel good. We're strong riders. We're unlimited. We're going to keep going. I see people out here in their 50s and 60s riding some gnarly trails. So we're going to keep it going. Absolutely. It's an awesome sport.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, okay. So let me talk about my rides a little bit.
Yes.
Last week, we talked about getting another bike out onto National Trail.
Yeah.
We were talking about XC bikes and whether or not you need an enduro bike. And I have definitely feedback on that. But you kind of challenged me like, hey, I'd love to see you take another bike onto National Trail and South Mountain.
That's right.
And I have this really cool aggressive hardtail, which we call the Banshee. It's a Banshee Paradox V3. It's a slacked out hardtail. It's like an enduro hardtail, but it is absolutely a hardtail. And so I did take it to National Trail. There was a huge learning curve. Yes. Huge learning curve. The tire PSI is like just of paramount importance. I had way too much PSI. So I got to the gateway climb and I failed this thing over and over and over. I'm just bouncing off of it. I didn't realize it at the time.
Yeah.
So finally I give up and I continue on the ride. And as I'm riding, I'm getting things and I'm not getting things. I'm starting to get into the flow of the hardtail. I'm warming up to it. But I realized that I'm just bouncing off of things. And as I'm riding, I was like, I got to take air out of these tires. And I ended up finishing the rear was at like, I think 23 and a half. And the front was at like 21. And it felt great. And I do have a tire insert in the back, so I can just kind of like relax and breathe about that and start to trust that.
Yeah.
But once I took the air out of the tires, I started to get more climbs. And then I turned around and I came back down National. And this is what you were saying, was that you thought that it was going to flow better downhill than I expected. I was nervous about riding the hardtail downhill. And it was really fun. It felt great. I mean, harsh, definitely like a full body workout. Definitely. But it felt really good. I did not go down the waterfall because the last step off of the waterfall is pretty significant. And I just wasn't sure if I was going to have a rim ding or something like that. I was like, I think I can. I know I can, but I just didn't. But the hardtail experiment, very interesting, very cool, and something I'd be open to doing again, to be doing some more.
Yeah. Here's a question for you. And that is, well, maybe it's not a question, more of a statement, but I find that the hardtail, and this is going to sound really weird, but I find the hardtail to be more predictable than my full suspension bike. Now, I do recognize that my full suspension is 7 years old and, probably not the best, it's an old Geo and all that stuff, but there is a feeling of predictability. I know how that bike is going to move. So it is more harsh. The ride is more harsh, but I know what the bike is going to do. Did you get that feeling at all when you're going on the downhills, especially?
I think the more I ride it, it's going to probably an element of that. I could see that happening. It's really working the bike. You're much more connected to the bike. You really feel all the input much more. I'm thinking about where I'm putting my back wheel, whereas on my full suspension, like I'm not thinking about that.
Yes.
So like I want everything to be smooth, and maybe it's a little bit more body English. It's definitely a different type of awareness.
Yeah.
And there's more. I'm sure there's more skill involved in being able to flow on the hardtail. I was surprised how good it felt at times.
You just said awareness and body position, and that was going to be my second question was, did you find yourself like really trying to get into a good, and that's the thing with the hardtail, there is no safety net, right? I mean, you got the front suspension, but there's no safety net for a bad mistake. And so it becomes really critical that you are in the correct position and that you have your eyes well ahead, you're studying the trail. But yeah, you know how you were struggling with your chin, and getting your chin over the front bar.
Yes.
Did you find any of that, when you were riding?
I mean, that's constant for me. I have to be constantly reminding myself to break the glass of the trail, whether it's a jump or tack or steeps. And the more that I commit to being centered, the better I feel. Absolutely. Yeah.
No matter the bike. Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
I was curious to see what you thought of it on the climbs, because if you were going to bring a hardtail to South Mountain, that's probably the main reason why you would do it, would be for climbing efficiency. How was it compared to the Enduro? Yeah,
that's a great question. If you were to put a gun to my head and say you're climbing a technical trail with either of these bikes, I'm taking the Pivot. It absolutely climbed tech easier and better. It just stays so planted, stays so grounded. I believe that the bottom bracket on my Firebird, my Pivot Firebird, is higher, so I have more clearance. I had a lot of pedal strikes. I fell over at one point on the hardtail because I pedaled through a step up and got a pedal strike and it just knocked me over.
Yeah.
And I've done that same move on the Firebird and I've never noticed that. Maybe the suspension would save me there, but I think it's just a little bit higher. That bike is really long and low and slack. I'm not sure how much it's made for technical climbing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then just efficiency wise, you're just bouncing around more. You're standing a lot more. So I'd say overall, it's a lot more work. It's more work going up, and it's a tremendous amount more work going down.
Wow. Well, there you go. I mean, if you're looking for a short ride, but with a good workout, hardtail's where it's at, Next stop, single speed, bro.
I would love to have a single speed with modern geometry. You know what I mean? Like our single speeds are basically taking a gravel bike onto the national trail. And I know people could do it. I know the trail boss could do it, no problem. But the trail intern is nervous about that. So I did another ride. I did a ride at Hawes with AJ and his buddy Jordan.
Yeah.
And so in a nutshell, Pure O is like a lot of tech. AJ said it's the steepest and loosest trail at Hawes. It's a lot of tech. It's a lot of flow. He said if you just hit it from top to bottom, it's over in a minute and a half. So you can like send it on this thing.
Yeah.
But we stopped. We looked at all the features. There was several things that we rode that that was no problem. I looked at it. I was nervous. And then when I rode it, it was no problem.
Yeah.
And then there was two main features on there. There's one called the tree gap, which is like a drop jump through a tree
What?
Yeah. And the landing is a little bit off camber and it's loose. It's sandy. Everything's sandy at Hawes. So I looked at it and it's a sniper takeoff. Like you have to hit this rock perfect or you'll hit the tree. And I looked at it and I was like, I feel like I can get this. I think I can get this. And it was just like my pre-ride day and I wasn't 100%. I wasn't close enough.
Yeah.
And I looked at it long enough that he was like, hey, Dan, if you're looking that long, it's probably not the day. And I was like, you know what? You are 100% right.
Yeah.
I know I can do it, but not today. So it's a couple of things to put on the list. It's a Hans Ray feature for down the road.
Yeah.
So that was a really fun day. And we did some of these gap jumps in what they call the NRA pit. There's like multiple lines with gap jumps from small, intermediate, and then like there's mega, like pro level crazy stuff. And AJ let me follow him down, I would say like the intermediate line. And there's two big gap jumps in the beginning. And this is where I'm coming back to the riding blind comment is if you're riding blind, so I'd never been down this trail, but you have a local showing you, get as much intel from them to make you comfortable so that you can enjoy it. What's coming up here? Is there a gap jump? Is there anything I need to pull for? Is there anything I need to be aware of? Is there anything that's, highly consequential? And so AJ told me, and he's seen me ride a little bit, but he told me the first two gap jumps are significant. After that, they're all much more manageable. And so I skipped the first two. And then after that, I just followed him at his speed through there. And I wouldn't have done that if I was going by myself.
Right.
And it felt great. Stayed centered. I got up in the air. I hit the landing. It felt really great. It was really awesome. And then at the end, there's a huge hip jump. And he sent that. And then afterwards, right next to it, there's a huge wall ride like jump. I mean, it's not it looks like a wall. It's not a wall ride. It's just a huge sender. And he hit that, and it was really, really fun.
Two questions. One, are you riding blind if you're following somebody, even if it's your first time down the trail? That's question one.
Not technically. I would say not technically.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's two types, right? There's getting a tour from, and then there's completely riding completely blind. But if you can get that tour, then I guess it's not technically riding blind, but you've never seen it before, so it is kind of.
Well, you're bringing up a great point, but I think there's a really vast difference between riding a trail blind, traditionally blind, and actually riding a trail for the first time, but you're following somebody. There's different questions and different things that run through my head, at least. And you brought up a great one. Which is you ask questions right at the start of the trail. You say, listen, and I go the opposite. I usually tell people, don't tell me anything unless it's above this or bigger than this. So in case of a gap, it's like, okay, if the gap is bigger than 3 feet, let me know. If the drop is smaller than 3 feet, I don't need to know. Like, don't tell me. I'll just follow you. We're fine. If it's more than 3 feet.
Well, how often?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, how often does someone start telling you about a trail and they're giving you so much information that you're just like, I completely lost where we are on the trail right now. Like there's this and then this and then this and then this. So I love your comment of just tell me the minimum things I need to know. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And so we're not stopping unless it's over a 3 foot drop. And that's great. So now I'm just trusting in their speed. How much I trust, it depends on how much I've ridden with this person. If I haven't ridden with them at all, then the gap that I leave between us is a little bit greater. If it's someone that I trust very well, if I'm following you, I can follow pretty close, 2 bike lengths, maybe 3 bike lengths behind, which is really tight. That's not especially at speed. So that was point number one. The second question, or it wasn't a question, but more of a statement, was like, how cool is it to have somebody like an AJ to actually just be like point blank, like, dude, I don't think you're ready, and that like, that's, he doesn't know you. Like we're not best friends. Like he doesn't know you that well, but for him to just notice that immediately and say, yo, buddy, today's not the day. And who knows where that could have went. It was
like a relief. It was like, oh yeah, you know what? You're right. I'm gonna stop angsting over maybe doing this.
Yeah, we talk about getting signs. Like, what are the signs? We're looking for signs, right? That's a sign.
Yeah.
That was a clear sign that, like, okay,
Yes.
I wasn't meant to do this today. And so shout out AJ, because that was pretty cool.
I would say, yeah, like intuition. Like, you know, he's a really good person. He's a good listener. Like when you meet him, like he's a really nice guy, and he has that intuition, you know. And if you're looking at it for that long and you're deliberating, yeah, we'll be back. You know, it's such a great attitude.
Yes, and that's the difference between someone that's a good experienced jumper and someone that's not, right? If you and I are hanging out at that jump, we're having conversations for like a 30-minute, you know, like, what do you think?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've done this gap and blah, blah. And because we're not experienced jumpers. And you get to someone like AJ who has plenty of experience doing all kinds of big time features. And he immediately recognized, like, dude, you ain't ready. Like, we're not going to sit here and stare at this thing for the next 30 minutes and debate whether you can do it or you can't.
I've done that with other people when I'm incredibly comfortable. I've done that with my kids when I'm incredibly comfortable. I'm present. There's no anxiety in me. There was no anxiety in AJ. He's done the drop before. It was no big deal. Right. And so he's completely present and just watching. And he's open to his intuition. He's open to his signs. He's open to whatever he's receiving of, like, what's the energy here? Is it comfort? Is it confidence? Is it anxiety? Right. So, but when I'm looking at it, there was anxiety and confidence, but, you know, like there was just a lot of, like, you know, maybe, and and it's harder to quiet the mind and get that sign. Should I do this? Should I send this? And especially when you're at a place that you're not going to go back to, you know, like when we were at Natalie and we were thinking about doing the big slabs, and I was like, well, I don't know when I'm gonna be back here, so I'm going for it. You know, obviously going recently with having a really bad crash.
Yes.
It's the practice of being able to quiet the mind so that we can receive and be open to our real intuition. So thank you, AJ. Thank you. Jordan, awesome dude. Really, really, really enjoyed hanging out with him and riding with him. One of the friendliest people I've met. Really cool. I liked him a lot. Another thing about riding blind, because that's clearly, although it wasn't the intention, thanks, Sean Cassidy, for your question, because that's clearly the topic of the show, is you're now following someone. Okay, so you're not technically riding blind. And this happened to me. Jeff and I rode South Mountain. We climbed National, and we had the intention of going down this double black trail called Old Man. Mm-hmm. And it's known for being very, very technical, very loose, very fast, and with a couple of oh crap moments and mixed in there, right? So I had watched the YouTube on it, but I didn't get much from it. Yeah. So now I'm following Jeff, and he's been on that trail before. He's a really good rider. He's faster downhill probably anyway. And he was definitely more confident. So as far as riding blind, but maybe following someone or following a local, it doesn't do you much good when that person gets so far in front of you that you're no longer seeing the lines. And that happened to me a bunch of times following Jeff. When I was on him, I was like, oh, this is so helpful. And it happens on Corona de Loma every time. He smokes me on that trail. I cannot follow his lines because he just smokes me. I'm not going to tell him to slow down. You know, especially not a trail that I've been on several times. But that does happen where you're following someone and then you're not. So I rode Old Man blind with a local showing me the way, but I only really had him for like half of it. You know what I mean? When you see the video, like I'm catching up to him a lot. That said, it was an absolute pleasure following him. And then he stopped at a couple spots and we sessioned some things and we cleared everything. We cleared all the hard features on that trail, including this part called the catwalk, which is a high exposure, like a little technical move. He flowed through it. He didn't stop. He'd never done it before. And he just flowed through it. And I saw him like celebrating on the other side of it. And as I approach it, I clipped out and I was like, did he just get through that? And he was like, I just got through that. And he coached me through it. And I got through it also. And the stoke was super high. And then that trail just gets like steep and loose and gnarly. Yeah. And we talked about is an XC bike enough? Yes, you can ride XC bikes. Yes, you can ride hardtails. This is a trail bike. It's an enduro trail. You could do it on a trail bike. A good rider could absolutely do it on a trail bike. And that's South Mountain. So whereas I don't need that travel for 95% of the trail, there is parts of the trail where it's just going to make that ride a lot more fun, a lot more confident, a lot more capable.
to relate this back to the riding blind, how much does the bike make a difference for riding blind? You know, I guess that would depend on where you're riding too, but you know, like how much of having that big travel bike, you know, gives you a sense of security, right?
Yes. If you know that you can huck off of something in an imperfect way, like you just, yeah. I think there's something to that. There's absolutely something to that. And an old man, there was a few times when I was just like, oh my gosh,
yeah,
this is way steeper than I thought, or this is rolling much differently than I thought. But but that bike can absolutely save you, and it's fun. It's fun when you're on a big travel bike and it's chunky as heck and you're going fast and the bike's just eating and you're just flowing through it.
Yeah. What's Jeff riding?
He has a big travel Yeti. He also has an XC bike that he'll take out.
Oh,
for rides here and there.
Is he clipped or?
He is. He's clipped in.
All
and he
right,
wears a hip pack.
Yeah. How nerve-wracking is it to ride? I mean, I haven't seen this feature that you're talking about this. You said it was like what did you call it? What was the special feature? Yeah. Yeah. How is it, you know, doing that on clips, knowing that you're kind of secured to the bike?
Being clipped in doesn't bother me. The thing that I find most disconcerting about being clipped in on a really technical downhill trail is when we stop and I need to get back clipped in.
Right.
And like it starts off like that happens several times on Old Man where like I got clipped out or we stopped the session something and then I can't get clipped in and it's so chunky that I just like can't get my foot in.
Yeah.
And it's like sapping my confidence. And at a certain point you just have to be like, just ride without having that foot clipped in and see what happens. You know what I mean? Like all hell's breaking loose in my head, you know, it's just like, I'm a DEFCON 5.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens a lot when you're standing at the top of a slab, you know, and there's not a run in that you can do. So it's like, you got to get clipped in like right away. And the pressure, it's already scary enough that you have to do this slab, but then trying to like add that, I have to get clipped in is such a scary feeling. And what I was going to ask you was, do you have a dominant clip in foot? And I'm trying to think of if I do, like, do I like to start with which foot do I like to start being clipped in first? I don't know if I know I have one, but I can't think of which one it is.
I'm really okay either way. I don't think that drives me nuts. Sometimes I can't get my right foot clipped in for like 3 pedal strokes, you know, then you stop and you're like, okay. And you clip in the right and then you start and you just,
yes.
like somehow like that seems to reset the weirdness of it all. But yeah. It was really fun. That trail was gnarly. I look forward to doing it again. It like gives me a little bit of angst, but it's just a really tough trail. I mean, there's a part and you just can't tell on camera where it's unbelievably loose and steep. It's just, it's just crazy, but very, very cool. So, that was a really fun day. And, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that day when I get into my gratitudes. Do you want to address anything else on the riding blind or anything that we've been discussing?
Oh man, we could spend another 30 minutes discussing all the nuances of riding blind, but no, we should probably move on to gratitudes. Yeah.
What did we miss? Listener, what did we miss? Anything, or what do you agree with? Anything? Is riding trails blind fun? Do you look forward to that?
Oh yeah.
Do you consider following a local riding blind? I still consider that riding blind, but it is a different level. There's a lot more comfort there. Especially if that local's faster than you, which they almost always are
if they lose
on their local
yes.
trails, you know, like, so I still consider that riding blind to a certain degree, but certainly me following Jeff down Old Man was a lot more fun, even though I lost him a bunch of times because he's fast. It's a lot more fun than me just doing it completely blind. So really cool.
Yep.
All right. Gratitudes.
My mountain bike gratitude goes to Denny Giannetti, who has recently started a new Rider podcast. And he asked me to come on and we had so much fun. This dude, I mean, he got his start doing YouTube, just making regular like POV videos. But I think he found his calling, Danny. He is a pretty funny guy and he made me feel really welcome. Yeah, you made me feel really welcome. I think I think he found his calling right here with the Rider Laugh. Rider Laugh. That's funny. Rider Spotlight series. So, Dennis, thank you so much for having me on. Good luck with this. And yeah, I was super grateful.
I'm a huge fan of this idea for him. I think he's got we read his comments all the time because he's so funny. It's just like I'm not trying to read the same guy's comment every show, but he's always writing in something really funny or really clever.
Right.
And when he kind of said that he was going to go in this direction of interviewing mountain bike YouTubers that he found interesting, I was just like, yeah, you know what? I really think this is great for you because it can really show off his personality, can really show off his sense of humor, and also his intuition and his empathy. And he's just getting started, but he's following his passion. He's not doing the easy path. He's not just trying to like fit into the algorithm and this is how I'm going to be successful. He's following his passion. He's following what he really loves to do. And that's talk to people and connect with people. And I thought it was a great interview. Where can people find it? Obviously, we'll put it in the show notes. We'll put a link to it.
That's what I was just about to say is take a look at the description. We'll put a link right to the video as well as his channel, which is Denny Janetti MTB. But definitely check the description for the actual link. Take it right there. So good luck, Dennis.
Yes. Good luck, Dennis. You can find it. He's got it on YouTube. He also has it on as a podcast. So you can check out the Trail Sage interview there. So check that out. Support Dennis. My mountain bike gratitude of the week is going to go back to the national trail ride that Jeff and I did. We went down Old Man, and because it's not that far down the trail, the Old Man Trail.
We went down on the Old Man.
I knew that trail name was going to get me in trouble. At some point, I knew that trail was going to get me in trouble.
Jesus.
He was a gnarly old man. Yeah. Oh, good Lord. All right. Rewind. We went down the trail called Old Man. Sheesh. We knew we were going down that trail. We climbed National because that's the harder way up. And for Jeff and I, getting to the Old Man Trail just isn't as long of a ride.
Right.
And as we're climbing, we meet this guy named Kyle. And Kyle's out solo riding. He loves South Mountain, and strike up a conversation, introduce ourselves. We start riding with him, and Kyle is a phenomenal rider, absolutely amazing rider. My gratitude goes to Kyle for spending that time with us and just being an awesome mountain biker in general and mountain bike dude. And he was showing us lines that I had no idea anybody was riding. And he was amazing. He called it a lift. He called like getting up onto these rocks a lift. And his technique was like go into like fifth or sixth gear and charge at these and then hop up. And he was like floating up onto these giant ledges. The amount of control and bike control that he had was really, really something. And as we're riding, Kyle is telling us about his buddy Rob Drew. Rob Drew is one of the like premier mountain bikers, I don't know, in the country, but definitely in the valley. The guy's an unbelievable rider. His brother is Rich Drew. They have the ride series. They do lessons and that sort of thing.
That's right.
And he said he took Rob's class back in the day. And he was just like talking about how helpful that was. And so at one point we're stopped on the trail and we're just talking, and who happens to come riding by but Rob Drew himself.
Shut up.
And and his buddy Daniel. And so we stop and we're talking to them, and I'm talking to Rob for like, I don't know, like 10 minutes. Turns out he's from Massachusetts, former pro moto racer. And so we're just talking about mountain biking, just like super nice guy, super cool dude, amazing rider. I've seen, if you like, check out Rob Drew. If you don't already follow him on Instagram, it's an amazing follow. He's an incredible rider. But yeah, Kyle was awesome. Rob was awesome. It was a pleasure meeting Daniel. And so my gratitude of the week is just, meeting these really friendly, just outgoing local riders, Kyle, and then Rob. I did watch Rob climb the waterfall, and he told me a story about how he learned to do that. And I'll save that for another pod because it's really, really, really interesting. But he's like, yeah, I've gotten to the point where like climbing the waterfall is just another part of my ride. It's
unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And for anyone that hasn't seen the waterfall on National Trail, to go up it, it's unbelievably difficult. And he's not using child moves. He is mountain biking. He's not hopping or anything like that. He is absolutely riding up this thing, and he has the perfect lines and the perfect form and the perfect traction. And yeah, it's just really cool. And Kyle was awesome. Just awesome people. Just so much gratitude. It's just like, the riding out here is so good, and there's so many high level riders because the riding is so good, but they love like hanging out and helping and sessioning and meeting people. And it was just a great day. So we went from like riding with Kyle and meeting Rob, and then the day finished with riding that old man trail, which was just like an adrenaline rush to the 10th degree. So it was a great day. Nothing but gratitude and appreciation.
Man, that is awesome. Mountain bike tip is kind of what we talked about earlier about riding blind. Well, what you consider riding blind, but I don't. But that is following somebody for the
what do you want to call that?
First time down a trail.
Is riding a trail for the first time with nobody in front of you, or maybe someone. What about someone in front of you who's also riding blind? Is that riding blind? Are you still riding blind?
No, it's still not right. If there's somebody in front of you, that's a huge advantage. You can learn so much, even if that person is riding it blind. There's a different feeling. There's a different feeling of insecurity. There's a different feeling of awareness when you're riding. And you and I have talked about this. When you're riding behind somebody, sometimes you'll even feel like, I think I could go faster. Right. It's just the effect. The reason why you feel like, I think I could go faster is because you're getting the advantage of seeing what their mistakes are or what their lines are and how you can improve that. Right. And that is something that you don't get when you're the first one, when you're the first person when you're in the front, and you're riding blind, you don't have that advantage. And
the true blind riding experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Ride and Laugh 1 at Gmail and Ride and Laugh 1 at Gmail and YouTube comments. What is it? If riding blind is you're the first one on a new trail, what's it called if you're the first time riding the trail and there's someone in front of you? We have an opportunity to name a mountain bike, to create a new mountain bike term for all time. This will be in the mountain bike vernacular from now on.
Yeah.
What are we going to call it when you're on the trail for the first time, but you're following someone, maybe a local? Let's brainstorm this. Do you have any ideas? I don't have anything off the top of my head. But let's brainstorm.
I mean, I got nothing off the top of my head, but we do have a chance to name this thing. And I got to tell you, we've named some pretty good, we've come up with some pretty good names. Yeah.
Okay. If riding blind is you don't have either eye, right? You're blind.
Yeah.
So if you're following a local, riding pirate, like one eye? Riding Cyclops? Riding cataracts?
Patched. Riding patched.
Riding impaired. Oh no, riding impaired sounds like what I actually do most of the time. I am riding impaired. I take that personally.
Oh my goodness.
All right.
Well, listen.
Ride and Laugh 1 at Gmail, YouTube comments. Let's see if we can come up with a term here. I love it.
Yes, absolutely. So the mountain bike tip is something that we briefly discussed, and I just do want to hammer it home. When you are following somebody down a trail that you're not familiar with, the best thing to do isn't to ask them to describe the trail. The best thing to do is to just ask them to point out or call out the things that are going to be above your skill level. So again, for someone like me, anything that's over a 3-foot drop, I need to know about. Anything under, I don't care. Don't tell me about it. I'll just follow you. I trust you. Same with a tabletop. I don't need to know if it's a tabletop. If it's a gap, I got to know. If it's a gap, you got to let me know. I might even have to stop. And I'll say that. I'll say, listen, if it's a gap, if I want to do it, I'm going to have to stop. So in that way, you had mentioned it declutters your brain. So instead of thinking about, okay, then, 50 feet, I have to make this turn and and then I don't forget about this deer that comes out of the woods at this point, blah, blah, blah. Like, who cares? Like, none of that matters. You're following somebody. Just follow. That's it. That's your only job, So that's my mountain bike tip. Just focus on the things that are above your skill level or questionable on your skill level, and that will help to focus your ride. I don't know if I said that correctly or well.
I totally understand what you mean. Ride and Laugh 1 at Gmail, YouTube comments. If you didn't follow what Sage is saying, I think it goes back to
there.
getting the if you have questions about this, or if you just want us to like redo this entire segment because he didn't make any sense, let us know. We can maybe we'll come out with a short. We'll come out with a hot take, RNL hot take, clarifying what Sage said on episode 51.
Yeah.
But I think the point is, and I think it's excellent, is find out exactly what you need to know and only what you need to know. So you're letting the person know
that's right.
Is this on this trail? Are there gap jumps on this trail? No? Okay, I'll follow you. Are there drops on this trail? No? Okay, I'll follow you. Oh, there are gap jumps? How big?
Yep.
How steep is this? How loose is it? And so when I was following AJ or when I was following Jeff, they're both really fast and they both know the trail, especially AJ. I lost both of those guys at one point. So now you go from following someone to now you're back riding blind. And so now falling back into all of those habits that we talked about. You've already tested the soil, you've already tested the ground, you've already tested the sand and the dirt. How are my wheels hooking up? So, and you got your eyes up and you get into that good centered position and you're present. So no panic. Oh no, I can't see the line anymore. I don't know where I'm going. Just, okay, I got this. So yeah, just go with the flow and trust what either you've been told with your research or just trust your skills.
I love it, brother. Bring us home.
All right. Well, if you are still listening, you are absolutely one of us. You love mountain biking and we appreciate you. Please remember to rate and subscribe on your podcast player. Please remember to rate and give us a thumbs up on YouTube, and comments help the algorithm. And on YouTube, watch it till the end. And just everyone have a fantastic week and a great week of riding. Gratitude for listening. Ride and laugh.
I'll see everyone.